What's up, everybody? KleverKrok back for week 11 of the GTA Season 4. Can I just say it's a bit weird that we're still in XY ORAS, Gen 6, while I've been playing, and I know everybody else has been playing Gen 7, not only on Showdown, but just on their, their own devices, 3DS and all that good stuff. Man, those games are great. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about some fantastic matches in Season 4. And like I said, this is Week 11. We've got 5 matches to talk about this week. And some of these matches were some of the craziest comebacks I've seen in the league so far. And it doesn't surprise me, honestly, the Pokemon that make these comebacks, they can really put in a lot of work if given the chance. So we'll go ahead and jump into it. This first match is between the Mucks and the Honages. Mucks on top, Honages on the bottom. We've got the nasty Volcarona that the Mucks have shown they know how to use and aren't afraid to use it. I think that's the biggest threat that they've got. Slurpuff is a pretty good option as well. Mega Aerodactyl being good, I believe it outspeeds the Mega Alakazam, so that's good to have. And then on the other side, the Honages team, at least the wall core is a bit weak, but offensively, their team is pretty threatening as well. So, other than that, we'll go ahead and jump into it. So, play music off. And as you can see, he leads with the Dragonite, which he's done the past few weeks, and he goes for Earthquake, which is interesting. I guess he doesn't go for the Outrage because of Slurpuff, which is totally understandable. Well, now he goes for it. And Malamar just starts to set up, and Malamar, surprisingly, is able to put in the finest of work. Now with Protect, it totally stops this Outrage, wastes, what Dragonite was doing. Getting hurt in Confusion doesn't help. And now he's just taking all kinds of damage. But, yeah, it's a bit of unfortunate hacks there. So Malamar pretty much gets a free kill there. Like I said, unfortunate. I think Malamar still would have walled out. It just would have had less health. So I'm not sure. Shadow Ball was neutral damage. I understand why not running Psyshock or Focus Blast would have been any better. But it does get Dazzling Gleam. So that would have been interesting to see if that had done something since it wasn't Assault Vested. And then obviously Knockoff just runs through Slowking and Alakazam. I would have just, instead of going into Slowking to let it get killed, he probably didn't know it would, but I would have just gone straight up to Excadrill to at least force the switch. Getting the burn here, again, unfortunate, 30% chance and all that stuff. I still would have run Stone Edge because even with the burn, it still would have done lots of damage. And so now Volcarona just gets to freely set up and demolish this team. It outspeeds everything at this point, even without the Quiver Dance. But he goes for it anyways, and it's pretty much done here. So, clean victory for the Mucks. Like I said, some really strong offensive threats, some unfortunate hacks early on the Honage's end, which is pretty unfortunate. But either way, he says don't die. But yeah, it was a really unfortunate circumstance, but I think the Mucks have shown that they really know how to use their Mons this season as well as last season. So without further ado, we'll go on to the next match, which is between the Char Millionaires and the Maple Grove Gengars. Char Millionaires on the bottom, Gengars on the top, and this is another situation where I think the wall core is not too great, but a lot of good offensive threats. The Char Millionaires have a lot more balanced of a team. So in general, I think I favor the Char Millionaires team as far as what they brought. They don't really have anything that stands out to me that can really take care of Venusaur, so Venusaur can handle most of what's going on here, as long as it's defensive, of course. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Starts with Rotom, which is kind of smart, going for that, yeah, actually, I'll stop that real quick. Going for Rotom was kind of smart because he wanted to be able to scout what was going to happen and then either burn or pivot on the Pokemon, but the Gengars actually, either they predicted it or they just picked the best option and went for Gastrodon, which completely walls Rotom and then gets to try a free Toxic. And yeah, he went into Venusaur and made a good prediction there, which, you know, did unfortunately like cost him a turn. I would have probably just thrown out a Scald because the burn may have been decent damage to help take down that Venusaur later on, but it's not the end of the world. Here though, he's forced to switch out and he goes into Vileplume, and the Giga Drain does nothing because Vileplume has pretty good Spadef. And the Sleep Powder, which lands, I believe it's like 75% accurate, so pretty lucky there. And then here we go, Sword Stance, which is good. Stone Edge did so much, and he either over predicted expecting the switch, or he went for Leech Seed for recovery. But Sword Stance Kabutops taking out a Venusaur, who would have thought? And so he started with, I guess, I'm not really sure why he switched out and got the Rotom to not be able to Volt Switch. So that was a good move there. And now here, the Gengars are still making really good plays, really running through this team. Sludge Wave just does so much. I'm sure that's Sheer Force Life Orb. Again, with this with the Gastrodon completely walling Rotom. It's just hilarious. And here, just putting in the finest of work. I would have stayed for Scald because that just does more damage. There's really no reason to not go for Scald here. So had he done that, I think, let's see what the difference is. It may or may not have mattered in the end as far as damage goes, because he was at 7% and there's a 5% difference based on the damage dealt previous between Ice Beam and Scald. So I'm not sure if it would have mattered, but as far as damage rolls go, it would have been extremely close. But regardless, it didn't happen. So we go back here, landing another Sleep Powder, pretty good. Goes into Gastrodon, who's going to eat a Fire Blast pretty well. And I'm guessing that's probably Specs or Scarf, so he switches out. That thing's asleep, so I would have switched into Kabutops and set up a Sword Stance, because he's not going to be able to beat the Wish Aromatisse here. So again, switching to Gastrodon, but I think that's what he predicted that time. Yep, doubled back out to Aromatisse, who can take care of this Gastrodon. My guess is that here was actually a pretty good play. I don't know if it was intentional, but he went into the Zangoose and got poisoned, which he already was going to get poisoned because he runs him Toxic Boost. So with Toxic Boost already being triggered, which is fine, he got a free switch in essentially, and now he's able to just destroy Chandelure, which was the only thing immune to his Facade. So that was pretty good. So it goes for close combat, and that just ruins Tyrantrum because of that Toxic Boost. Man, it just does so much. Now this is what, yeah, it was a crit. I didn't see that before. I'm not sure if it mattered, but man, it was just destroying him. So I would have just switched out because obviously Aromatisse is here to stall instead of here to stay. Oh, the puns. But yeah, he lets him go down there. Then he's got the Sludge Wave here. Now, I think that he just tries to sit here and stall. Again, I would have probably gone out to either Machamp or Kabutops to set up, because here he just tries to go for Sleep Powder so that he can take him out with Nidoking or something else. The problem, he finally misses a Sleep Powder, and he eventually makes him run out of Sleep Powders because he's stalling. I gotta say, I'm proud of Dan for successfully running, this, but at the same time, I'm upset because I feel like he went to the dark side. The dark side of competitive Pokemon. But here, now he's got this guy to set up. He misses the Sleep Powder again, so he's really in trouble. he should have just gone for it again at that point because he was in like so much trouble already. Going for the toxic was kind of a waste of a turn because without the lumberry, even if he didn't have a lumberry and he had something else, he wouldn't have gone down to toxic fast enough to stop this sweep. And again, Dan and the Char Millionaires have proven that they can really use Mew to sweep in a pinch, and that definitely happened this time. I don't feel like it had to happen. I feel like there were, with the stall games that Dan was playing, there were plenty of opportunities to set up with Kabutops or, run through this team regardless, but, obviously that didn't happen because Dan picked the right opportunity to switch into Mew and all that. So, he picked the right opportunity and ended up working. But the Gengars really gave him a run for his money, so to speak. And, it was a really close match. It almost went all the way for the Gengars. So really, really good match on the Gengar side. Just some really good plays at the end is ultimately what determined it. And that just goes to show you, even when you're down 5-2 and you are stalling and just trying to figure out what you can do, you can still win in a pinch. I mean, this is a perfect example. Like, it almost looked like Dan had nothing left, but he still had something up his sleeve in Wild Card, his Mew. So, really cool match. We'll go ahead and go on to the next match, which is another close one, which was between the New England Parasects on the bottom and the Richmond Raikos on the top. And again, the Raikos team is just really powerful. Really powerful. And then on the bottom, we've got the Parasects, who have a bunch of really good mons, but I don't know about the synergy between them. A lot of just common weaknesses. But, they've made it work this season for what they can. So, we'll go ahead and start the match. And here we get the Gligar start, and he goes for the Earthquake. I would have gone for Rocks. Because, having 2 ground immunities and then a ground resistance in Serperior, I wouldn't have probably done that turn 1. And then trying to set up with Slowbro when Clefable could potentially be unaware, when Serperior outspeeds and pretty much destroys Slowbro. It's a bit early to set up like that. So here, Volcanion just can't do enough damage. I guess it's probably Assault Vested based on that damage. If it was Specs, it probably would have outpaced the Roost on the Togekiss, but since it wasn't that or Life Orb, as you can tell, it just kind of stopped it. So now he goes into Clefable. Good prediction on the Parasect's end. Goes for the Volt Switch here with the boosted special attack. And then we have the nasty plot called Mind Wars, where they both kind of try to hit each other, status each other, heal, so on and so forth, and just they keep doing that. I'm skipping because we don't need to watch all of this like this. But as you can see, it gets close at times, but it's the game of stall, basically. And he eventually forces the Clefable to switch out, lets the Volcanion go down, and then in comes Scizor with his crazy Bullet Punch, and didn't do that much, so must have had some defense investment. But at this point, I would have brought Heat Wave or Flamethrower on Togekiss, knowing that would be something that he would think would be a positive matchup for him, and Flamethrower would have just demolished. But I know he needed, the moves that he had in order to handle statuses and to heal and all that stuff. But honestly, I think Flamethrower would have put in a lot of work there. So he's forced to sacrifice his Slowbro, which was really the only thing that he could use to wall the Landorus for the most part, at least. He uses well, first of all, Latios doesn't do that much to Heracross, surprisingly. Mega Heracross rips a new one in Latios. Here, I would have Personally, I would have really liked to see Infernape with Overheat and maybe Hidden Power Ice, because that really catches people off guard, and he has a pretty good special attack. And with a Life Orb, that can really do a lot. And so going for Flare Blitz in close combat and just getting weared down by the defensive Landorus was a real problem, because that was the only thing at that point that he had to take out the Scizor. So at this point, it's just a matter of getting Scizor in safely. So he lets the Clefable go down. He goes into the Serperior, who misses a Leaf Storm, which is pretty important. Gligar goes for the U-turn. Raichu comes in. It does not speed though, so I'm not sure, unless maybe he was modest, why the Serperior switched out. But he sacrificed the Landorus here. Goes into Scizor, and I would have gone, let's see. So, how much does Thunderbolt do? I'm going to check real quick. Thunderbolt is 90, so it would have done more than Focus Blast. Granted, it does more... Focus Blast does more to Serperior as a potential switch-in than Thunderbolt would. But had he gone for Thunderbolt, which I think he was running, that would have done a bit more. And let's go back and see what he was at. Switching... Unless he was locked into Focus Blast. I guess that's a possibility. I didn't think about it, but he might have been Scarfed. Had he not been Scarfed, or had he gone for Thunderbolt, like if he could have, that might have given him a chance to like paralyze or force him to attack sooner. But this Roost and Swords Dance ultimately kicked him in the butt, because now he can't stop this thing. Again, no answers, and Scizor rips through everything, as it usually does. So another pretty good comeback. It got close, but when Infernape went down, the game was kind of decided, in my opinion. So, just an example of, no matter how close a match looks, sometimes when you let certain win condition Pokemon go down, that's when the game is decided. And in this case, I believe that to have been Infernape. So we'll go ahead and go on to the next match, which is the match between the Kentucky Krookodiles, coached by yours truly, and the Alakazam Apparitions, coached by Hukio. Now, I've really praised the Alakazam's team all season. I think it's a great team. I think it has a really interesting diversity. He's got the Dragon Steel Fairy core. He's got the Water Fire Grass core, whatever you want to call it. And he's got reliable hazard setting. The only thing he doesn't really have, or at least didn't bring this week, were hazard removal options. And I don't think it mattered in this match. Yes, it did actually. It very much mattered in this match. So we'll go ahead and start it. I don't think... I'm sorry. We'll just have to go between turns like this. I'm not sure why the replay downloaded the way it did, but there's no way to turn off the sound. So, I start with Vaporeon, and I think my biggest concern was that, well, I think it might have been Seismitoad, because I didn't really have a good answer for it to just take it out straight up, and I wasn't running like Grass Knot or anything for it. So I was concerned about that. I think the Azumarill was also a potential problem, because even though I had Skarmory and it walls it pretty good, Skarmory can't handle a belly drum Azumarill. And Weavile is also a bit scary, so I felt like I had a pretty good chance with the priority and the mix of options offensively that I had, but it could have gone either way based on team. I forgot. Sorry. So I knew that I should probably start with Ariel, my Vaporeon, expecting him to start with Heatran or something else, and I knew that he could take most of the hits at least once from any of his Pokemon, and I knew that I could go for Toxic or Scald, and I scared out the Heatran, although I was expecting him to go... Actually, I was kind of suspecting him to go into the Seismitoad if he were to switch out, and I was okay to let it have a safe switch in because of water absorb, but it turned out that he forgot to put water absorb on it, so it took damage, got burned, and then obviously it went down the following turn. So that was just a unfortunate mistake in team building, and he intended to have it, so that just, sorry about that. Here he tries to set up with Reuniclus, which got kind of scary because it can hit really hard. And so I switched into Thor with my Assault Vest to see if it would do anything. So he set up with a Calm Mind. So I went for a Volt Switch and switched into Scolipede. I think from here he switched out into Heatran, expecting me to, what was it? Volt Switch into Scolipede. Sorry, I'm just reviewing. Again, we're not exactly able to watch this without it being glaringly loud. So, yeah, so I Volt Switch after he went into Heatran. I pivoted off of that and went into Scolipede, and he didn't, I don't think he knew that Scolipede gets Earthquake, and I was running an offensive Life Orb set. So Earthquake obviously O-code. And then from here, I outsped everything, including the Weavile and any other potential Scarf Pokemon. And I miss a Megahorn, so that was unfortunate on my end because that there, even if I was able to land everything else, it would die to Life Orb before I could take out the rest of his team, which I knew that once Seismitoad went down, that Scolipede could one-shot everything on his team between Poison Jab, Earthquake, and Megahorn. So it was unfortunate there because that did stop his sweep, sadly, but I still was able to pick up a knockout on Reuniclus and Mega Sceptile, which was good. And then he goes for the Ice Shard here as I protect, because I was thinking he'd go for Ice Shard, and so I was like, well, do you have Ice Shard? And obviously he took me out there. From there, I set up my rocks because I know I can wall Weavile. If it's not Life Orb, which it wasn't, it was Citrus Berry. So, I just kind of stalled a little bit and bounced it back and forth until I could weaken it to where I could just let it all go down. So that's what I did. I just let them go down, and then I sent out Vaporeon for the safe switch in on the Waterfall lock because it was choice banded, the Azumarill. So I was able to switch in and just finish it off without losing differential from the Skarmory. So yeah, it was a good match. Pretty straightforward. So we'll go ahead and go on to the last match, which was between the Wiltshire Wobbuffets on top and the Cincinnati Charizards on the bottom. I really like both of these teams. They just exuberate power, if that's even a valid description. But I like the Articuno here. I'm interested to see what it does because Barbaracle kind of walls it. Chestnut is pretty good here. Let's see. Mandibuzz is pretty good here. Jirachi's pretty good here too. I like both of their teams. They're both really good, and they kind of resist each other. There's not a lot of super main advantages that I can see here. So we'll go ahead and get into it. Leading with Victini against the Mandibuzz. The Spec set, I think, or maybe it's just a Scarf set, but put in the work against Mandibuzz and just put in so much damage. So kind of did a decent amount early on. And then here he goes for, I guess, Freeze Dry, yeah. It's kind of just a back and forth right now. Fusion Bolt didn't do too much. Thunder Wave, so that was a good switch in with the Gliscor. Once he saw the leftovers, he probably predicted that. Set up the rocks, which was good because the only defogger that he could have had was Articuno, and it's weak to rocks like crazy. Nidoqueen went for Taunt, which I guess was expecting the Gliscor to stay in. But Nidoqueen's really bulky, so didn't do too much to the Nidoqueen. Switches out to Chestnut because Chestnut is able to wall Conch pretty well. And then Gliscor comes in, obviously, because Gliscor loves this thing. Gets rid of the Rocky Helmet, which is pretty helpful, in exchange for Leech Seed, which isn't so helpful for him. Forces the switch out. I think here he goes for, he goes for an offensive attack, but doesn't take it out, just shy of a knockout, which stinks because now he's going to have to switch. Jirachi again comes in, kind of stops things, but he misses a play rough, which probably mattered some. Took some decent damage from foul play. And just kind of shuffling around. I think he probably goes for... Oh no, he doubled out. Doubled out into Jirachi. So that was a pretty good move here. Unless he goes for knockoff, but... It's a worthy trade, even though that just didn't do very much. I'm really surprised. It must not be gusts this time. So apparently there was a mistake of item choice in the conch. So that's probably what kind of happened there. So far it looks like it's about even as far as what's going on here. It's hard to tell, but the Articuno's was able to safely come in and manage its health somewhat. Gets rid of the Kyurem Black. Now here, well, it was a risky play to go for that. He probably should have just gone for Stone Edge or Rock Slide instead of going for Shell Smash, and he probably forgot or expected him to switch because Freeze Dry obviously is a super effective move against water types. So that demolished the Barbaracle, but he's probably expecting a switch there, and Articuno probably wasn't very valuable to the Charizards at that point, which is why he stayed in. But he manages to get a couple important knockouts here and just continues to put out a ton of damage, and then it finally goes down. And then Sharpedo comes in and just destroys life with Ice Fang. So, goes down. Yeah, so pretty good match played on both sides. I would say that there's a couple turns where the Wobbuffets overpredicted and that cost them pretty dearly, like the Barbaracle, but the Charizards just played really well too. They had a really good core as far as what walled what on the Wobbuffets team. And other than that, it's just hard to fight bulk in this type of format sometimes. So it's a pretty bulky team, not gonna lie, other than Sharpedo, of course. But that's it. I think that's it for this week. A lot of really good matches, really close ones, comebacks, all sorts of good stuff. So if you guys like this video, obviously like and subscribe if you want to keep following this series. Each week I put out videos for the recap of my league, the Gentlemen's Training Association, and we're currently in Season 4 and we have 2 more weeks left, I believe. So be back next week for Week 12, and then we'll have the final week of the regular season going into the tournament, and then we will do some more new stuff in the coming weeks, probably next year, but regardless, that's it for this week, guys. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching, guys. If y'all enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like, and if you want, subscribe for more videos. Hope to see y'all in the future, and thank you for watching.